Hello and welcome to Empire Builders, the place for entrepreneurs, business owners and experts who want to build an epic empire. I'm Nick James and thanks for joining me here today. Hey, evening, ladies and gents. How are we doing? Welcome. This evening's training, really, I put together on a bit of a whim. It was an idea I had last week. It's a combination of what I've been doing for many years that's worked when it comes to getting clients using social media and email. This also works getting clients from ads as well, from paid ads. But I'm mindful that not everybody in our community, not all businesses, not all entrepreneurs are in a position where they're spending money or want to spend money on ads. So everything I'm going to share with you this evening is relevant to free and paid marketing. So the title of this training is How to Get New Clients for Free Using Social Media and Email. Caveat is you could absolutely apply these principles for paid advertising as well. And I guess where this all came from, where it came about, as I said, it's a combination of what I've done for many years and have done fairly well. I've devised this kind of three-step system when it comes to getting clients from social media and email. By the way, the principles are almost identical. I'll highlight a couple of differences if you're using social media posting or if you're using email, but essentially 80 to 90% of it is the same across both applications. So the three-step system, it's really short, really sweet, really simple that I'm going to share with you. I've used it to basically build everything that I've built. I mean, like for the first 6 years I was in business, I did zero paid advertising. So it was all predominantly email back then and then started to become more social. I'd say now it's probably more balanced off. Probably a third of what I do is social, a third of it's email, a third of it's paid advertising. But like this three-step system, I'm going to show you some examples as well. I got over 100 leads for our high-end masterminds. So our mastermind programs, I know some of you are members of our mastermind. They're anything between £8,500 and £48,000 a year to join. I got over 100 leads from one post on Facebook using this three-step system. If you've got a high-ticket product or service, I mean, even if you couldn't get 100 leads, even if you got 10 leads as a result of what you're learning here this evening for a high-ticket program, that'd be useful, wouldn't it? I've also used the same three steps apply if you're a speaker or a trainer. Same three steps apply when you're presenting from stage. So I sold at the last Expert Empires event over £250,000 worth of programs from one presentation from stage. Used this system for that as well. It's pretty much how we've always filled rooms. Again, if you've who's been to an Expert Empires event, by the way, just type EE in the chat if you've been to one of my Expert Empires events in London. All the marketing really for Expert Empires, Jilly says she's been to all of them. That's 13 events now, I think, Jilly. It might even be 14. So how we fill those events is from email marketing, social media posting, and paid advertising. And the three-step system I'm going to give you here is relevant and applies to those three platforms. I've also used it to raise hundreds of thousands of pounds in sponsorships for our events. In fact, I think for this event alone that we're about to run in October, I need to add it up. I think we're certainly north of £100,000 in sponsorship for this event, most of which has come from social media posting only using these three steps. And of course, loads of other applications. I run live events, trainings, that's my business, but regardless of what products or services you sell, you can absolutely use these three steps. And I think the reason why I devised this training, like I said, came up with a concept last week, is really based upon what I'm learning right now. And there's a course that I've been studying for the last few weeks, which is really, really good. I highly recommend it. And it's called Magnetic Story Selling. And it's by a guy called Russell Brunson, who's speaking at our next Expert Empires event, and Dan Kennedy, who's one of, in my view, Dan Kennedy, probably one of the smartest marketers to have ever lived. That's a big statement. But most of the marketers that you might know of or might follow have probably at some stage in their career studied with Dan. He's like the godfather of marketing. And then people like Russell, people like myself, Alex Formosi, all of the US-based kind of marketing business experts, gurus, have studied with Dan Kennedy. So this program, it's called Magnetic Story Selling. I'm studying it at the moment. I've not finished it yet. So much to it. But what Russell's done in this program is explained a lot of what I've been doing for years in really simple terms. So what I've done is I've taken the concepts that he covers in this program and distilled them into a training for you this evening. And basically what he says is that sales, whether it's online, whether it's on the phone one-to-one, whether it's on Zoom, whether it's live in a room from stage, selling is best done through stories. Again, whether you're posting on social media to make sales, whether you're doing DMs, selling is best done through stories. And like I said, I've been studying this program. I'm not all the way through it yet, but he's distilled the concept of selling through stories brilliantly, I think. And so this program's amazing. I highly recommend it. It's actually, this is what a novel concept. It's a book, but it's a multimedia book. Like, it's $2,000 to purchase this course, and it's a book. So like, you wouldn't expect to pay $2,000 for a book, would you? You'd probably expect to pay like 5 or 10 or 15 quid. It's $2,000 because what's inside is lots of video training, lots of audio training, lots of courses that Russell, that Dan have delivered over the years. And I reckon I've invested, with Dan alone, I've invested probably upwards 30, 40 grand in his trainings over the years, and probably tens of thousands with Russell as well. So this program is really good, and I wanted to give that a shout out because the concepts that I'm going to give you here this evening, I kind of have become more conscious and more aware of thanks to this course, this training. So the 3-step system, let's dive straight in. There are 3 steps to what Russell calls story selling, selling through stories. But really, I see it as 3 steps that any marketing message should contain, whether it's social media posts on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whether it's video on YouTube, TikTok, whether it's direct mail, sending stuff through the post. I do a lot of long form posts on Facebook, is where I kind of do most of my social media advertising, but applies to email marketing, paid ads, you name it. The 3 steps apply. The first step is the hook. Now, the goal of any marketing that you might do in your business is to get attention. That's it. And this evening's training is about specifically how to get clients for free using social media and email. I don't want this to sound depressing or harsh. It's never been more difficult to get attention via social media and email than it is right now, because it's so noisy. I started doing email marketing in 2008. So like, when I started doing email marketing, like, receiving an email was like a novel concept. It was exciting because you didn't get loads of them. And now, of course, you get bombarded constantly. So competition for attention via email, competition for attention in the social media feed is so fierce that the hook has got to be strong. So the hook could be your email subject line, would be your hook if you're doing email marketing. I would say 80% of the success of your email marketing comes from what's in the subject line, because that's the main thing that's going to determine whether or not your email gets opened. Now, of course, there are other factors like your existing relationship with the person who's on your list, like email deliverability and software and tech. But I'm saying 80% of the success of your email campaign is going to come from the subject line, because that's the hook. That's what's either going to get someone to scroll past or delete or open and read. In social media world, depending on what platform you're posting on, this is the image and or headline. So if you follow me on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, you'll see that almost always, whenever I post anything, I normally have written content and image. Occasionally I'll do just written. There's reasons behind that, but normally I'll do both. And I'm always looking for the image to be something that's going to stop you scrolling. And by the way, the thing that perform best for me, like that will stop you scrolling, I know, is like photos of me and my family. Like last night, me and my wife, Nat, we were in London for a premiere of a good friend of mine, Danny Wallace. She's launched a new documentary. So me and Nat are in London, black tie dude. Nat looks amazing as always. I've got photos. I'm putting them on social. People are stopping to look at those photos. They're not as interested if the image is like one of my trainings or events full of people. They're just not, because it's not as engaging. It's not as personable. So social images, I tend to go with more personal images, and the headline, that first line of text in your post, is the hook. That's the thing that's going to get people's attention. By the way, I'm going to give you some real life examples and show you what's worked for me and why it's worked. So hopefully it'll give you some ideas as well. If you're doing live speeches, in person, online, it's the first minute of your presentation, like right at the top. I mean, by the way, let's loop back and reverse engineer. The first minute of this presentation, what did I do? I went, hey, I'm going to teach you how to get new clients for free using social media and email. That's why you're here. And here are the results that I've got thanks to this system. Hopefully by now I've got your attention because you're going, yeah, I would like to get hundreds of leads. I would like to sell hundreds of thousands of pounds if I'm a speaker. I'd like to fill rooms. I'd like to raise hundreds of thousands of pounds, etc., etc. So the whole point, the first 60 seconds of this presentation was hook, get your attention. It could be if you do a podcast. So I've got 2 podcasts, one that I've just launched. So my old podcast, which I've been doing for years, is called Empire Builders. Check it out on all your podcast platforms. There's 150 episodes for you to binge on. And then the recent one, which is more of a fun project, is called Heads and Volleys. And it's a podcast that I'm doing with a friend of mine, Paul, all about football, because I love football. I'm a big Villa fan, and we like to just chat shit and talk football. So we do that once a week on Heads and Volleys. But the episode title in a podcast is the hook. So if you think about it, your email that you send, the subject line's the hook. The social media post, it's the image and or the headline, the first bit of text they see. It's the first 60 seconds in a presentation. It's the podcast episode title. The first thing, and of course, there's loads of other examples. I'm just giving you a few. It's all of those things. They are the hooks in your marketing. By the way, when I talk about social, image, and headline, the same applies to your paid advertising. So if you're doing paid ads on Facebook, for example, then the image and the headline, or if you're doing video in your ads, then the first 5 seconds of the ad, the video, would be your hook, and the written content that goes with it, that first line, would be the hook as well. The purpose of the hook is really simple. Like I said, Russell explains this brilliantly in Magnetic Story Selling. So this bit is his content. The purpose of the hook is simply to get attention for long enough to be able to tell the story. That's it. The hook is not designed to, and I see people make this mistake all the time, they're trying to give all the information in the headline. You can't. They're trying to give all the information in the first minute of the presentation. They're trying to sell, here's the offer, here's how much it costs. They're trying to do that on the image or the social media post. It's too much. The whole point of the hook is to get attention for long enough to be able to tell a story. You basically, if you're in social media land, you're stopping the scroll. If you're on email, you're stopping them from deleting it, you're getting them to open it and read it, etc., etc. So the purpose of the hook, get attention for just about long enough to tell a story. So I'm giving you a few examples this evening. These are posts that I've created, and I've used my Facebook profile as the example, but I also took these posts, put them on LinkedIn, put them on Instagram, sent them out as emails. So I've used them in many different forms, but I'm just showing you how I used them on Facebook. So this is a great example of a hook. Picture of me and Lord Sugar on stage. He's very famous. Whether you like him or not, that's another discussion, but he's very famous, right? And headline, capital letters to get your attention, Lord Sugar nearly put me out of business. That is going to stop people in their tracks. It's going to, because it's sensational, isn't it? It's how did Lord Sugar nearly put Nick out of business? Did he sue him? Did he take legal action? Did he, what did he do? So it creates intrigue. Another good example. This is another post that I did. Headline, I already mentioned, didn't I, that photos of my family tend to work really well. Headline in capital letters, am I a bad parent? And then there's a picture of me and my boys. I've got a confession to make. For the last 7 years, I've been taking my son, Zach, on the right, out of school 4 days a year. So immediately, anyone that's a parent, that's friends with me on Facebook, that reads my emails, that follows me on Instagram, they're going to stop and look at this. They're going, what's this about? It's something to do with Nick being a bad parent. Like, people are fascinated, intrigued by this sort of thing. This is much more direct, but still worked phenomenally well. The headline is, try out my mastermind for free, 25 people only. I'm nervous about this post. Never done anything like this before. Might be a disaster. So if somebody is on the periphery of joining one of my programs, they know about me, they're going, wow, like an opportunity to do this thing that's got high value for free. Sounds really interesting. So that hook really worked. And by the way, just looking at some of the results here, and I'm going to unpack all of the posts. So hook's the first part, but there's 2 of the steps that we do in these posts. But you can see here on this one, we got 141 comments. So there was over 100. Some of those, of course, are me replying, but still, we got over 100 leads from this post for our mastermind. Over 100 people saying, I'm interested in joining your mastermind. Tell me more about it. This one here, am I a bad parent? This was designed to get people to put the hand in the air and say, I'm interested in purchasing a ticket to Expert Empires. We've got 135 comments. Again, some of those are me responding, but we're talking, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 leads, people saying they're interested. And first one, not as many, 56 comments. But again, this was actually to get people to put the hand in the air and say, I'm interested in an online course that I was running, I created, or my business partner, Matt, actually had created an online course about sales and closing. And so we had 56 again, probably 20 or 30 people say, yeah, I'm interested in the course, like send me more information. So those hooks really worked, and hopefully that gives you a sense as to why they worked as well. So that's step number one, is the hook. The reason for the hook is simply to get attention for long enough to be able to tell a story, which is step two of the system, tell the story. Now, there's different types of stories you can tell. Of course, you might choose to tell a personal experience story. These are really powerful. You're drawing upon your own personal experience. So in 2 of the 3 cases that I just covered, I'm using personal experience. So am I a bad parent? I'm talking about my experience as a parent, as a dad. In the Lord Sugar nearly put me out of business, I'm telling the story about what happened and what the story is. So I'm using personal experience there. But if you haven't got a personal experience story that's relevant, you might go down a universal experience route. So, for example, like a universal experience would be, today I was on the train on the way back from London to Birmingham. I'd been in London, as I said, yesterday evening for a premiere. And I'm sat up. I've got on the train, me and my wife now have got on the train, and unknowingly, is that even a word? Unbeknownst to me? Unknowingly? I think that's what I was looking for. Unknowingly, I've sat in the quiet zone. And when I'm on the train, I like to get work done. So I've got my laptop open, I'm prepping for this evening. I want to do voice notes to people. And I had to keep stepping out of, this is a universal experience, right? Everybody's probably at some point got on a train and gone, oh, I'm in the quiet zone. Or you've had that annoying thing where you've sat in the quiet zone, you don't want to be distracted, and somebody like me is on the phone, which I wasn't. I was courteous enough to leave the quiet zone and send my voice notes and make my phone calls. That's a universal experience that all of you, as I was talking about being on the train, being in the quiet zone, you were all picturing your experience of that, which means it's easy to relate to. You could go third-party experience as well. So you could tell story from personal experience, you could tell universal experience that people can relate to. By the way, the universal experience actually was a personal one because it's something I did today. But even if it wasn't something I'd experienced recently, I could still tell that and you'd all understand it. Third-party experience could be me telling a story about somebody else. So somebody else's lived experience. The purpose of the story is simply to build connection between you and the reader, viewer, audience member, and where possible, this is the real art of this system, is telling a story that lends itself to increasing the perceived value and therefore the desire for your product or your service. So we want to try and find a relevant angle from hook through to story to then, we'll come on to the third step in a moment, make an offer. So stories are a great way to engage. Once you've got the attention through the hook, they're a great way to increase perceived value. Again, I'm going to show you how I do that. So the Lord Sugar post, which was Lord Sugar nearly put me out of business. And as I said, I use this in email as well. The story then was in October 2017, my business was really struggling. I'd stopped offering one-to-one consulting. I was going for the one-to-many model. Sales were slow. My top salesperson had resigned. And I'd just dropped 100 grand to have Lord Sugar speak at my upcoming Expert Empires event. Cash was tight. I was worried. We needed sales. By the way, this story works at a few levels, right? Because first of all, in fact, let me ask you a question. Who can relate to the experience of being in business and cash being tight, you being worried and needing to make sales fast? Just type the word yes in the chat if you can relate to that experience. Either you've experienced it in the past, or maybe you're experiencing it right now. Like you've had that. Like no business owner I've ever met has not had that experience at some point. So straight away, I'm using a personal story, but it's universally applicable. The other thing I've also done, by the way, which is subtle, but I think relevant here, you probably don't drop 100 grand to have Lord Sugar speak at your event unless you're relatively successful in business. So I'm very subtly positioning myself as an authority. So the story continues. I was desperate. I brought in Matt Elwell as a sales and closing consultant. He trained me, he trained my team. Everything I thought I knew about sales was wrong. Short version, we trebled our sales in 30 days. Cha-ching. And since then, I've generated over 19 million in revenue as a result of his training. Massive game changer for me. Partnered with Matt to train other people. We've created this formula, certified over 1,500 people. So that's all a story. And keep that story in your mind, because when we go on step 3, you'll see how I transition that story into sales or into an offer. The bad parent one, the bad parent hook. The story here was, am I a bad parent? Because I've been taking my son out of school 4 days a year. I'm not supposed to do that, but I believe I'm doing it for a good reason. Zach's attended every single event we've run since we had Gary Vee as our first headliner in 2017. He's met and learned from David Goggins, Fern Cotton, Stephen Bartlett, Marie Forleo, Grant Cardone, Lewis Howes, Joe Wicks. I'm basically telling the story, but also, again, this story is designed to, it's actually designed to do 2 things. One, it's controversial because I know that the education system is not supportive of me taking him out of school. I also know that my audience, who are entrepreneurs, business owners, people like me, believe, generally speaking, not all, that traditional education only gets you so far, and that alternative education, coming to events like Expert Empires, spending time working on personal development, mindset, etc., is as valuable, if not more valuable. I know that about our audience. I'm speaking their language here. And I say, Zach sits in on the content sessions. He spends a couple of days out of school, different learning environment. He loves attending. He'd hate to miss it. I know I shouldn't take him out of school for 2 days, twice a year. But personally, I think the pros outweigh the cons. I know my market. I know my audience well. I'm sure you're the same. You do too. I know this speaks to them massively. Like, I can actually see some of you on the camera and nodding away, going, yeah. I agree that the traditional education system only gets you so far. And I agree that we should educate our kids, our children, on how to manage money, how to run a business, mindset, etc. Like, I know that you all believe that, or a lot of you believe that. So I'm speaking your language through this story. I'm not going to do the other one just because it's too long and it will take me too long and I've only got 45 minutes. So that's the story piece. The third piece is the offer. So we've had hook, get attention with something. Mine was, am I a bad parent? Picture of me and my kids. It was, Lord Sugar nearly put me out of business. Picture of me and Lord Sugar. It was, do you want to try out my mastermind for free? These are hooks that stop people from scrolling, or they make them open the email. Then the third step, once you've told the story, is then the offer, which needs to be relevant to the story. So you need to select the story carefully to make sure it matches the offer. Sometimes, actually, I work the story out and then go, what offer do I want to make as a result of this story? But normally what I do is I go, this is the offer I want to make. What story can I draw upon that's going to be helpful? What's the angle here? So the offer can include, but certainly doesn't have to include all of the things that I'm about to share. But it can include, first of all, features and benefits. So like, okay, what is the thing that you have to offer? Is it a coaching program? Is it done for you service? Is it training? Is it live events? Is it a digital product? What is it specifically? That's the features, the deliverables. And then the benefits are, what's it going to do for them? Like, what's the problem it's going to solve? What's the result or the outcome that it's going to create for your client or customer? So in the offer, you need to, albeit briefly, just explain like what it is. People need to know that. Obviously, whenever I'm doing this, I'm making it pretty clear on the am I a bad parent post, on the Lord Sugar need to put me out of business. Like, I'm making it clear on the Lord Sugar one. I'll show you in a minute. I'm going, okay, we've now turned this thing that made me 19 million quid in sales into an online course. And in this course, you can learn exactly the steps that I followed to make 19 million. If you like it, here's what you do. So I'm explaining the benefits of the course and the fact that it is an online course. You might also, not always, especially not on social media, but you might include the investment options. You might talk about money and price, or at least position the price. Really important is why should somebody buy it or take whatever action it is you're looking to get them to take? It might not be a purchase. It might just be making a free step rather than a paid one. But why should they do it now? Why should they buy now? And what is the step they need to take, like really clearly defined? Is it on a post on social? Comment below. Is it send me a DM? Is it click this link in the email? Is it reply to this email? What is the action that you want them to take? Being really clear. You'd be amazed how many people get this wrong in their marketing. And the purpose of the offer piece of the system is to create a sense of urgency. In other words, okay, I can't procrastinate because people will. I can't procrastinate. I need to act or purchase, whatever the step is, urgently right now. So again, I'm going to go back to the two posts that I showed you earlier and finish them off. So the Am I a Bad Parent post, you'll see from the bottom, 4 lines. The bottom is the call to action. The great news is for the next Expert Empires, by the way, this was earlier this year, so this was for the May Expert Empires. The great news is for the next Expert Empires, you won't even need to miss school because it lands in the week of May half term for most UK schools. That's why for the first time ever, I'm making a small number of young entrepreneurs tickets available for 12 to 18-year-olds at cost. So that's the positioning of the offer. I've not given the price, but I've positioned it. And it says to get the details about how you can get your young entrepreneur involved, comment team below, and I'll send you the details. So that's here's what you need to do next is comment team below. So that's you can see here, recapping the 3 steps. Hook, am I a bad parent? Picture of me and my boys. Story, as I've explained. Offer, like young entrepreneurs ticket at cost, comment team below. Very clear. Recap. This is the Lord Sugar post. So Lord Sugar nearly put me out of business. And then you've got the story bit about October 2017. I was stressed, cash was tight. We weren't making many sales. I got Matt in as a consultant. He trained me, trained my team, trebled our sales in 30 days. That's the story. And then the offer, this is much longer. So I wanted to include this one, so it's a good example of the offer. It says, so far, we've certified over 1,500 people who can sell and close more easily and elegantly. The problem is, up until now, the only way to get the training has been to spend £1,000 plus financial investment and hassle of having to get to our training centre in Birmingham, which means if you live overseas, you've got family commitments, you're in your business, struggle to spend 3 days away from home. I know these are the main objections or reasons why somebody doesn't come to our training. It's been very difficult for you to access this information. So what's it got to do with you? This is now the offer. This weekend, first time ever, we're making the certification available online, meaning you can learn the exact formula that helped me generate 19 million, including the benefits. Here's what you're going to learn. The training's been specifically created for business owners and entrepreneurs who want to increase sales but don't know how. They feel anxious or they have to take care of sales in the business. They don't really enjoy it. These are all the things that I know go on for business owners and entrepreneurs. Some of you can probably relate to this stuff. But once you've completed it, you'll fall in love with the sales process. That's the benefit. So now we're at the end of the offer. I know that might sound a bit strong. As I already shared, when I first learned this formula 7 years ago, transform a business, we tripled our sales in 90 days. Imagine if you could do the same. What kind of difference would that make? The great news is you can access the training in your own time, from the comfort of your own home. Sunday morning, 7 p.m, we're making it available online for the first time ever. If you're one of the first people to jump on it, 50% off. Again, that's giving a bit of a positioning of price. To get on the waiting list, comment online below, and we'll add the name to the list. And then we'll keep you up to date on how to purchase at half price. So that was a much longer offer because it's a bit more complex. It needs more explanation. So yeah, that is the 3 steps: story, lesson, offer. I think we'll have a bit of time for questions. And as I said, I just wanted to give credit where it's due to, I think Russell in this magnetic storytelling courses, he highlights that hook, story, offer process. I'd never thought of it. I've been creating marketing, email campaigns, social media posts like this for years, but I didn't really know what I was doing, or I couldn't explain it as clearly. And when I studied this course, like I said, I think it's brilliant. It's so good. When I studied this course, it made me go like, hey, I can use this framework to teach what I've been doing to my audience. And hopefully this has been valuable and giving you some good ideas, some good insights as to how you can generate more leads, get more opportunities from email, from social media for your products and for your services. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I think you'll love attending Expert Empires in London on the 3rd and 4th of October. We've got the amazing Russell Brunson headlining, and if you click the link in the show notes, you can grab your discounted ticket right now. Do that, and I'd love to see you there. Thank you so much for listening to Empire Builders. Please subscribe, leave us a review on Apple, on Spotify, on other platforms, and share the love, tell your friends. Remember, till next time, the more you connect, the more you collect.